Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are, whatever you're doing, and welcome to another episode of Media Matters by Anfield Index. It doesn't get any slower, does it, ladies and gents? I may have enjoyed a recent holiday, but the Reds and Messrs. Hughes, Edwards, they are in full swing. And there is a certain topic that's dominated the morning, which we'll be talking about, and no doubt I'll be asking various people around. But I am delighted as ever to be reunited, speaking again to the renowned and the respected David Lynch. And I'm guessing just at the moment, David, it is mental busy. Is that a fair assessment in your world?
Yeah, I'm absolutely up against it, to be honest. I mean, it's. You compare it to last summer, it's absolutely crazy, isn't it? And there's just so much to talk about, so much kind of speculation, so much going on, so much actually happening, and transfers to talk about, analyze potential transfers to come, sales ins, outs. So it's absolutely mad. And then of course we're on a pre-season tour, so games are starting again. Got a game this weekend, which is something to look forward to because I do really like talking about the actual football as well. So yeah, summer like I've kind of never really known, to be honest. And it must have been nice for you to have missed a little bit of it, have your feet up, and I hope you enjoyed that. But it's back to it now, mate.
Yeah, it was nice not to be jumping on a pod every 5 seconds. I thought that period would have passed, but being honest, looking at what's happening, it may well still be right in the midst of that. And there's only one place we're going to start. What everyone is asking right now in the chat panel, as Craig Hope and various other Newcastle patch journos reported, Alexander Isak has not travelled with Newcastle to Singapore. Now, being completely honest, when you first saw that or read that, heard it, apart from thinking you're going to get a text from me, what was your other thought?
Just feels significant, doesn't it? I mean, especially in the light knowing that Liverpool had still retained an interest in the player, that he's not going out there. I mean, we've seen stories recently as well that the thigh injuries had a scan on it and it's come back clear. So I mean, if that's the case, then why is it holding him back from the tour? I mean, obviously, Newcastle will be looking to kind of make the point that they are just trying to manage that injury and be very careful with him. But I mean, let's be honest, I think we can all kind of see what's going on here. It certainly feels that way. You can read too much into it, but you even
Yeah.
get the feel from kind of the Newcastle side that there's a fear of losing him and a feeling that his head's been turned massively. So it does. It feels hugely significant, and it just means that this story's not going to die a death yet. It's still there and it's going to rumble on. And until we hear a genuinely firm answer if he's going nowhere, then it will continue to roll on.
Yeah, it does feel like this is just starting up again. And as a few have tweeted on this, and you mentioned that he had that thigh scan, apparently has come back all clear, but he's still not able to travel. And Eddie Howe did say about a day ago he did, he was in the plans to go to Singapore, but now all of a sudden he's not. And it's a minor injury, but 12 days, and it's not going to suit him. Does this have a little bit of the Felipe Coutinho to Barcelona style feel to it?
100%, 100%. It's exactly the same situation, isn't it? An injury that won't show up on scans, but the player's still feeling it and doesn't want to take part in training or games because of it. It's very, very similar. It just seems like he's kind of down in tools to get himself out, and he's massively had his head turned by Liverpool. So, I mean, the choice here is clear for Newcastle, is whether you kind of fight against that and you put yourself in a position where you just say to like you've got to get your head screwed on because we're going into the season now and we need you to be fit and in form and concentrated on what we're trying to achieve, or whether you give in and say how we're finding this window a little bit hard, we need the money, this will probably help us to address several positions. So it might be a wise sale in that context. And for me, I don't want to put any I don't like, to be honest, some of the way some supporters talk about it online and getting into mocking Newcastle or whatever. At the end of the day, Newcastle can do what they want. They've got 3 years left on the contract of a player. They was a genius signing by them, by the way. Absolutely fantastic signing. He's worth a lot more than they signed him for. And they can put the foot down and they can say no, and that's an option. Liverpool did the exact same thing with Coutinho. Let's not forget they only sold him in the January, having in the summer completely ruled out a move. So they did. They dug their heels in at a moment where you would have said about Liverpool, it probably would have made more sense to make the sale, to reinvest it. but the decision went beyond football. It was the decision that they made on, to kind of salvage pride, to say something about where they were in their journey back to the top. Newcastle have every right to do that if they want to, because they've signed the player to a contract and he has to fulfill it. So, I think it's absolutely fair if they're saying not for sale or whatever. I don't think you should be kind of disrespectful around the whole thing, really. I think that's important. So it's totally up to them. It's basically the long and short of it, and we will see what decision they make. I think from a sporting perspective, you can completely justify selling him and reinvesting to fully establish themselves as a Champions League club. But equally, in terms of what it says about your reputation and where you want to be as a club, you can also justify not selling him, because he is one of the best strikers in the world. He's got to be top 5, hasn't he? So, they could justify that as well, really. So, it's just one of those situations. We know Liverpool are interested. We know Newcastle at the moment don't want to sell. Yeah. And it's all up to them, really, whether they give Liverpool the green light or not. And maybe they won't. And I think that's fair enough if they don't, and fair enough if they do, to be honest.
It does feel like almost a sliding doors moment for Newcastle. And you're right, because we should be respectful. They're a big club, no matter what anyone says. Does it almost feel like we've been in this position before? We've had the Mascherano going on strike, Torres wanting out. We've almost been that middle link in the food chain that they almost are. It sounds horrible, but brass tacks, Liverpool are in the higher echelons now from where they used to be, and Newcastle in that middle area, aren't they?
Yeah, so every Liverpool fan knows what it feels like as well, which again is why some of the stuff on social media leaves me a little bit cold. The kind of having a pop at Newcastle fans, or it's not a nice feeling, is it, when a bigger fish comes in and tries to take your player? In fact, Liverpool fans really did not enjoy what happened with Trent Alexander-Arnold running down his contract to go to a perceived bigger fish in Real Madrid. So, and they are a bigger fish. So, I'm not into all that, and I just kind of. It leaves a bit of a sour taste for me, really. So, because as you say, Liverpool have been there with several players, with Luis Suarez trying to get out every time he did an interview on international duty. It's an absolutely grim feeling, isn't it, for supporters, really? So, with Isak, that's clearly what's happening to Newcastle at the moment. But as I say, the important thing here is that Newcastle do hold all the cards. He's not got 2 years of contract left. He's got 3. They're in a comfortable situation with that, and they could decide to keep him, and that would be absolutely fair enough. So let's see what they do.
I suppose to the final bit on this, like you said, today on what's happened does feel significant because, great respect to everyone. I'm not sure everyone's convinced on the injury situation. We've linked it back to Coutinho there. This does almost feel like there's nothing guaranteed either way. It's still up to Newcastle ultimately, but the pressure on them and Eddie Howe has just ratcheted up another level, hasn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. This is the thing, is that, as much as they are in control of the situation, it's kind of, there is pressure from all sides, pressure from the players' side, who clearly does want the move, and pressure from Liverpool's side in terms of they are there ready to pounce and have got the money ready to go. So it does make it difficult. I think, it probably would have just been the smart decision, I think, from a footballing perspective, to just earlier in the window to have just said, right, if we accept this, we've probably got more to throw at Ekitike. We've probably got more options, and we can get our actual transfer targets over the line. But, the further it goes on, the less it becomes a smart decision, because you somehow need to replace a player like Isak with, £150 million burning, or would probably be less than that, but burning a hole in your pocket, and everybody absolutely knows it. So, it's a tough one, and the fact is, you could see a team make an immediate downgrade if you take someone out of that quality, particularly if you don't sign someone who's got the same potential. So it's just a really, really tricky situation to be in, really. And as I say, Newcastle still privately and publicly is still standing firm on that not for sale. So it's all on whether they do change their minds on that. But I think they've probably got to make their minds up on whether it's firm one way or the other pretty soon, really, I'd say, because of that external pressure, because the manager needs to know what he's working with ahead of next season, doesn't he?
Yeah, there was an interesting one from a few Newcastle channels as well, saying that Eddie Howe's always talked about team spirit, and Lewis Hall's gone out there even when he isn't fully fit, the Callum Wilson example. So you do wonder just what Eddie Howe is thinking on this right now, but we'll have to see. I'm sure we'll be talking about Isak for the next few weeks, whatever happens. But one player through the door to be positive about, Hugo Ekitike, he's there. He was in Hong Kong. He went to training. This is no, as some people suggest it, Isak consolation. This is a good buy for Liverpool, this, isn't it?
Yeah, but it clearly kind of something that took me a little bit by surprise is that how long Liverpool have been working on it, really. So we were told kind of yesterday that this is something that's kind of been in the works since January, really. So, clearly sort of separate to the Isak interest, which is ongoing as well. So again, a little bit of a surprise. We spoke about, could Newcastle really sign Ekitike and Isak? How would that work? And now Liverpool are trying to do the same thing. It's a little bit bad. So, I mean, how that whole thing would shake out in terms of game time for everyone, I'm really not sure. But it's a fascinating one. But I think what we can say is that, Liverpool are convinced they've got a good signing. I mean, there's the line there that, only Haaland and Mbappe have shown more potential according to their data under the age of 23 in the last few years. So that's the kind of company he's in, and they're very confident that his finishing will regress upwards, which I think, I've mentioned that in my YouTube video analysing it, that's the easiest bet in stats is that he will regress upwards because he's generally been a level finisher across his career. So, so they're confident they've got a real good one here, and that's exciting. And very, very. He's probably, I've seen less of him than I've seen Wirtz over the last couple of seasons. So, quite excited to see him in action and see what he can do and see how he fits in, because it's always interesting when you get someone new in.
You do wonder whether AC Milan might just come that little bit too soon, to be fair, after sort of a long haul flight at the same time. But I mean, Ekitike takes it beyond 300 million for the people that have got the various figures. And it shows no signs of stopping, because I know you mentioned it before. Paul Joyce had it in his article. Mark Gay's almost come back around. It went quiet for a while, but this seems to be a name back on the docket for Liverpool, potentially.
Yeah, I just feel like with Gay, that it's kind of a similar situation to where it was in terms of maybe Crystal Palace's asking price is a little bit high at the moment, and Liverpool aren't going to bite on that number. But of course, there is a little bit of pressure on them because you're losing for free at the end of next season if you don't, or for a cut price fee in January. So, and you get the feeling they would maybe rather sell to get that money back in and be able to reinvest it. So, maybe that will, as the window progresses, will just push the price down a little bit. So, again, we'll kind of see how that progresses. But that definitely one thing you can say, absolutely concrete. Liverpool are still hugely interested in Gay, but it's, again, the ball's in Crystal Palace's court, as it is with Newcastle with Isak, really, to come down to a fee that Liverpool would find acceptable, I guess.
Just feel like this window's still going to need all of the skills that Edwards, Ward and Hughes can master in their negotiations. And I mean, we talked about sort of media outlets. One of Liverpool's patch journalists, James Pearce, he tweeted, and I'm sure you see this, it got a lot of interest, let's put it that way. So he talked about Luis Diaz, which we'll come to as well. But probably the big thing that people took from it, James Pearce tweeting that Real Madrid's Rodrigo currently not viewed as a possible replacement if Diaz does go. And then there's been other mention of Fofana as well. The Rodrigo bit, because that name had been sort of bubbling along, shall we say, all summer. But do you think it might just be finances, the neck of the deal, that's just going to make it out of reach, shall we say?
Yeah, so I'd had the same information earlier in that day, and I was speaking to someone on Twitter in the DMs about it, and I was like, I'm not putting this out there. I don't want the blowback from it. But I could, categorically understand that is the case, that they're not going to progress with the move for Rodrigo. Now, whether that's because the money doesn't look right or what his expectations are around the move, not sure about the reasons, but been told very, very firmly, and not in a way that feels like a position or Liverpool trying to put a smokescreen up. It's definitely not that kind of thing. You can tell when that's happening. That this isn't something that's going to happen. So, maybe it is the financials are just a million miles away or whatever, but doesn't look to be a player that Liverpool are interested in. So, it was just one of those, I guess. There will be other targets out there for that position if Diaz leaves. There'll be names that we've not even thought of that could be on the radar as well. So it's just, let's kind of see what happens with that one, but don't expect it to be Rodrigo.
Will be interesting, because I think everyone expects, Malik Fofana has been mentioned, as we said before, but if Diaz does depart, everyone expects someone to come in, and quite a few point Fofana in the chat panel. I mean, I'm still staggered on this. I had a quick check back because we talked in May or early May as things, were coming towards the end of the season of what we thought would happen. And we thought it would almost be, as I'd put it, managed recruitment, maybe like a dodgy nightclub, one in, one out, slow building. But the Reds have just gone for it on an unprecedented level so far, haven't they?
Yeah, and I'll be honest, I did not see this level of turnover coming. I thought Liverpool have generally looked to avoid that. But I think what I'm learning a lot in this window really is that a lot of the things that over the last sort of 7 or 8 years I kind of took as Liverpool approach to things, an FSG approach, the overall, the overarching kind of strategy really to recruitment was to kind of reduce turnover and do those things and have a very settled squad and show loyalty to players and those sorts of things. I think a lot of those are Jurgen Klopp quirks that I kind of hadn't realised really, because you've got a pretty similar kind of recruitment staff, certainly headed up by Michael Edwards as well. Basically just going absolutely mental in a single window. So it clearly was Klopp that was against all that kind of thing, and this recruitment staff use things very differently. So it makes it more exciting for us to be able to write about it and things. And my only slight worry is if you have this amount of turnover, is it disrupt you a little bit at the start of the season? But hey, they don't seem to be worried about that at all, and we'll kind of see how it plays out. But the thing is, it's mad about it. They spent this much. There's still more to come. There's still more signings to be made before this window's out. So it's it's absolutely crazy, but a joy to cover because it gives us stuff to talk about.
Yeah, and it just shows absolutely no signs of stopping. And it is right to talk about a little bit of balance in the books, because that has got to happen at some point. We know how FSG and Liverpool work. And I suppose the first part of the tweet that James Pearce put out, this rumoured Bayern Munich bid for Luis Diaz, I think they've been preparing it for about 6 years now, it feels like, doesn't it, to be honest?
Yeah, I mean, I keep being told that this bid is coming, it's imminent, it's days away, and then another day passes and it doesn't happen. So, maybe before the weekend we'll hear something on that one. I'll be very, very interested to see. But I think Bayern will come back for a second bid because obviously that first one was quite far away from Liverpool's expectations, but I think it was just kind of to get a feel for things, and then they've been talking amongst themselves. So we'll see how that one goes. I think Bayern have got a good idea of what needs to be brought to the table for Liverpool to shake hands on it, and I think Liverpool, there is an openness there to doing a deal at the right amount. So again, it's up to Bayern to do it. So we're just waiting for that.
Yeah, we will wait to see what happens. It does feel like that one gets done. But literally, the last time we had breaking news, I don't know if you remember, it was when Erik ten Hag got sacked, and that was a sad day, wasn't it, for us realistically? But as is on the screen, the breaking news has come through from Daily Mail. It's from the Craigho, from the Newcastle side. Alexander Isak tells Newcastle he wants to explore a transfer away. And I suppose now, as if you were putting it's hotting up, it feels like that's public now, doesn't it? It's out there that he's told them he wants to move away. Is this, I know it's not definite, but is this the next move in the chain?
Yeah, I mean, this feels significant, doesn't it? I mean, that's come strongly from the Newcastle side there, that he's pushing for a move. So again, I'd still say Newcastle have got an element of control here. That contract situation is not a bad one, is it? To be 3 years out, and they can really play hardball over a fee, and they're still not, I don't think, just having to flick through that piece, showing a great willingness to sell, really. Outside of saying, they're sticking to that line of a bid in the region of 150 million would maybe make them think about things. I don't think Liverpool are going to go quite that high. So is there room for negotiation there, or a compromise of sorts? We'll kind of have to see. But I mean, yeah, the fact that it's now outright known that the player wants to come, that's certainly handy for Liverpool in terms of maybe getting one over the line.
And it's also interesting, like you mentioned in that article, people have a quick scan saying that an offer in the region of 150 million, which is a fair bit different to not for sale, isn't it? It feels like we're starting to move into figure territory, even though it's not definite.
Yeah, that's it. I mean, this is it. If you start talking about an offer in the region of 150 million, well, if you can get add-ons that take you to 140 million from 120 million base or whatever, which Liverpool were willing to kind of go in at, we know. then that certainly makes things interesting, doesn't it? So it feels like a step towards a negotiation happening, but yeah, again, that's up to Newcastle whether they kind of make contact with Liverpool now and say, okay, let's thrash this out, let's get this done.